Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. I got another fun video for you guys today. It's that time of the year. It's time for me to talk about the biggest problem in Enlisted, the grind. Now, I've made a million of these videos already, and I'm going to make a million more because I think this is a problem that has always been the biggest problem with Enlisted, and I think that Enlisted will continue to exist in this treading water kind of state that we exist in today until the progression is changed for the better. So again, I feel it is my duty as a content creator of this game to bring attention to this and to give some information, my opinion on this, and hopefully, rally people around and get a discussion going at the minimum. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe you guys disagree, and that's perfectly fine. But I want to at least get a discussion going and give my thoughts on the matter. So guys, let's jump into this video. We're going to begin here, guys, with a little bit of math, okay? And I'm going to do all the math for you guys, so don't panic. This is all going to be based on my experience in the Allies Pacific campaign. I did finish the campaign, and as soon as I finished it, I went into my stats and I took a screenshot. So as you guys can see here, it took me 117 battles. It took me, I had a 90% win rate, and it took me a day and 3 hours, or 27 hours, to finish the campaign. And I know that you guys might be sitting there thinking, like, Quadro, this is insane. Like, this is not representative of the average player of Enlisted. And I recognize that. Like, I know that. I know that most players do not have a 90% win rate, and that's totally fine. That's not something that we can really account for. If you have the stats for you finish the campaign, I would love to see them, right? I think it's good to just kind of have that information on hand and to piece that together. But this is what I do have right now, and this is what I'm going to be basing things off of, and we're going to try to kind of shift that data over to maybe what an average player's experience might look like. And it might be a little messed up, and it might be a little wrong, but I think that the general idea will be there. So, again, 117 hours, or games, 27 hours, 90% win rate. That's an average game time of about 15 minutes. It's really 14, but we're going to round it up to 15 for the sake of math. 2.5 million XP to level 26, an average of 21,000 XP per game, or 85,000 per hour. So, what does that mean for the free-to-play player? I think the average free-to-play player is probably around maybe 10 to 30,000, depending on your skill level. Maybe 15 to 30 is probably a little bit safer. And then a premium player is anywhere between, 30 and 60,000, depending on your skill level. So there you go, generally speaking about that. It's another 2.5 million XP or 5 million XP total to get to level 40, which is where we're going to cut it off because they've said multiple times that they're going to do 40 plus levels. Who knows if they do more than 40? Maybe it stops at 40. I don't know. We're just going to say 40 because that's a nice clean 5 million XP. So that is 60 hours to level 40 for me, which isn't really that bad. But when you multiply that by 12 factions in the game, suddenly that's 720 hours to finish all the campaigns, which is kind of like and then when you remember that it's me doing this with like a 90% win rate, that kind of gets a little ridiculous and gets really, really crazy. Or 1,500 hours for free-to-play players. Free-to-play me, I mean. So like a top player doing free-to-play, that's 1,500 hours to finish all the campaigns in Enlisted. That's really high, guys. That's you're starting to get close to like 20% of all of the hours in a year. There's like 8,500 hours in a year, I think, or something like that. So that's pretty insane in my book, especially when they've released 2 campaigns in 2022 alone. I mean, it's kind of impossible, I think, for free-to-play players to really experience all the content in the game. And not that that's necessary, and we'll get to that in a minute. The average player is probably seeing more like 2,000 hours in-game time to finish everything. Free-to-play players, 2,000 hours or so, maybe even more, depending on your skill level. That's really crazy, especially when you remember, again, this is in-game time. This is not in battle time, or excuse me, this is in battle time. This isn't like in menus time. This doesn't count the time it takes you to load into a match. This doesn't take into account the amount of times it takes you to queue a match. It doesn't take into account your logistics and swapping things out and doing soldier upgrades, which is all going to massively increase the overall time invested into the game. It's probably going to get upwards of 2.5, maybe even 3,000 hours for someone to finish a campaign of Enlisted, or all of the campaigns in Enlisted, free to play. So I don't know, guys. In my book, that is frankly just too long. It is ridiculous. I think that just from a game design standpoint, and why bother making all that content if so few players are actually going to see it? And again, you don't need to play through all of the campaigns from start to finish in Enlisted to enjoy the game. You don't need to do anything in Enlisted. You don't need to unlock anything to enjoy the game. I think the game's just fun. But I think that it is important to at least recognize that a lot of players do want to grind out the game, and they do want to level up, and they want to feel like they are progressing through the campaigns. And whenever it takes 3,000 hours to finish everything, it just strikes me as why bother? Why spend time making these assets like the Johnson LMG if only 10% of the player base are ever actually going to see it, and the other 90% are just going to pick it up off the ground once every like 35 games? It just strikes me as silly, right? It strikes me as a waste of development time that could otherwise be spent on things that the majority of the player base will actually see. So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I also think that the majority of players won't grind out like 100 hours, let alone 1,000 hours, let alone 3,000 hours. So if the majority of your players aren't really going to play the game for that long, then why is that the amount of time that we're investing? Why is that the time that is supposed to be invested into the game to finish all the content? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think if you halved the grind of the game, right? If you brought it down to 1,000 hours or 500 hours for premium players, even then, I don't think that the majority of players are ever going to finish all of the campaigns. They might finish more campaigns, but at the end of the day, wouldn't that actually make more money? Because if I'm a Normandy player and I only play Normandy because I can only play Normandy Allies because it's going to take me hundreds of hours to finish the Normandy Allies grind, then I'm only ever experiencing Normandy Allies. I'm only ever spending money within the Normandy Allies campaign. If I'm going to buy a premium squad, it's only in Normandy Allies. But if I play multiple campaigns, then maybe I buy a $60 premium squad in Normandy Allies, and then I go and play Normandy Axis and get a $60 squad, or I go and play Berlin, Axis and get a $60 premium squad. That's more money in the pocket of Darkflow just by reducing the grind. When at the end of the day, that I don't really think they would lose any money. Because if you reduce the grind, you're also going to get more players overall. Because I really think that a lot of players are leaving the game as a result of the grind being just simply too high. I think you're going to get more players into the game. I think it's going to be a more approachable game. And again, like the previous example, you're going to get more money in your pocket. I don't think you're going to lose any money because I don't think that reducing the grind by any significant amount is going to stop people from buying premium. I think that Stalingrad is evident of that, right? Like, people didn't care. Like, Stalingrad was times 4 XP and people still bought it, right? Like, I think people are still going to buy the game to reduce the grind regardless, right? Like, people weren't like, oh, I'm not going to buy the Stalingrad Exodus Pass because I already have premium. Like, no, they bought it anyway because they just wanted to reduce the grind even more because they want more stuff. They want to play with more things in the game. So, I don't know. I really don't see a world where Darkflow loses any significant amount of money by reducing the grind, right, in like premium sales. I think that premium sales at the end of the day will either stay the same or will only go up as a result of more players joining the game and playing the game. So I really think that that's just like a totally off base argument that I constantly hear. Like, oh, they need to make money off premium. Like, they'll make money off premium anyway. I don't think it matters. So anyway, there's going to be players that are going to grind out all the thing. There's going to be players that are going to grind out everything and spend 2,000 hours. I am evidence of that. Players I know are evidence of that. I'm sure some of you guys are evidence of that. And I know some of you guys probably have thousands of hours on War Thunder. And that's fine, right? Like, I'm not advocating for everyone to be able to finish every campaign in the game because that's just kind of unrealistic. And that's just not something that I think needs to even happen. But I think that it should be more than one campaign. And for the players that do want to finish every campaign, you can add things to the game that are really hard and do take 3,000 hours to grind out, right? Like, we have the achievement system. We have decals. We have player icons, camouflages, decorators for your tanks and your vehicles and things like that. Why don't we just add those to the game and allow those to be your late game things? Add challenges and achievements that are like kill 5.5 million soldiers in the Pacific campaign, or max every soldier or every squad in the Normandy Allies campaign, and you get like a cool, special thing, right? You get a special camouflage for your M4A1 76 Sherman or whatever, or you get like a special Pershing decal. Whatever it is, there's things that you can add to the game that these completionist players will go for. Just by the virtue of the fact that they just want something to grind. Okay, like if they have something to work towards, they will work towards it. Nobody's going to be leaving this game because they finished all of the grind. Like if you offer them something to grind towards, they will grind towards it. Okay, they'll make stuff up to grind towards it. Okay, so I don't think really that's an argument either. But again, you guys might disagree, and that's perfectly fine. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below. If you agree, let me know in the comments down below. Again, this is all about creating a discussion because, again, I think this is a major problem with the game, and I want to know what you guys think. I want to get a discussion going about this, as I have for the past coming up on 2 years at this point. So, guys, let me know in Discord, on Twitch, all that stuff. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It does help me out, and I do appreciate it. And without anything else, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.